Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. We'd like to welcome you all to tonight's broadcast of the Black Imams Roundtable. I'm Imam Faheem, aka the BIRT phenomenon, Fadada, you know what I mean? And I'm here tonight, inshallah. I'm not by myself, even though I appear by myself right now on the screen. My two cohorts will be joining me shortly, inshallah. Imam Naeem, Abdullah of Masjid of Pittsburgh, and also our beloved leader and sheikh, Imam Otis, a.k.a. Imam Amin Muhammad of Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City. He'll be joining us shortly. So I've been tasked with setting it off tonight, inshallah, to start this party off right. And so, as you know, as we start the party off right, there's an entrance fee, so we can move the velvet rope so you could come through as a VIP member of the 3453. Make sure you drop that bread, inshallah. We have a suggested donation of $10 per person. Everybody joins, or whoever may view this broadcast later, to help us to reach our goal, inshallah. We appreciate it from you all. We ask Allah, who's subhanahu wa ta'ala, to double and multiply your reward. And we also ask that you like and share this platform to your platforms so we can get around those algorithms so the message can get out. And also, I want to give a special shout to the many people who view us online, and they may not comment or may not do it, but I often come across people who say that they watch us every week. And I'll be like, mashallah. So that's very fulfilling, and it's an incentive to keep going, inshallah ta'ala. So we thank all of those who are, silent watchers, and also to our regular viewers who join us every week. We ask Allah, who's subhanahu wa ta'ala, to bless you all and increase you in every good. We definitely appreciate your support, and we appreciate you taking this time to join us, inshallah ta'ala. So alhamdulillah, we'll start. So tonight's topic is our priority. And so tonight it'll be a twofold topic, because we'll talk about our priorities. But last week we had a topic that we stated that we were going to talk about after you've been mistaken, like how do you correct it or something like that. I forget what the title was. Do you remember what it was, Imam Naeem?
One second, real quick.
So while he's doing that, inshallah,
is recovering after having been mistaken.
Or recovering after have been mistaken. Boy, you so the way you just popped up like that was crazy.
Translation: You used to be on this guidance.
Yeah.
When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manna alayka bil hidayah, then He favored you with guidance, and now you Shaykh al-Islam.
Yes. The
now, how do you keep going in that route without falling back?
Yeah, so we'll cover that. So the part we decided to discuss last week, as we decided on a topic, was recovering after being mistaken. And so that was, as you all know, you've heard our stories, particularly Imam Amin and myself. Imam Naeem has been a genius his whole life, so he never had those kind of problems. But after going through, different cults and sects and offshoots of Sunni Islam,
Hold up, man. I'm offended, man. I've been through stuff too.
I ain't say you didn't.
I wasn't always Ahlul Sunnah.
Okay, but you
I was
always
deviant one time myself.
Yeah, but you always been a genius, though.
Nah, not that genius.
Yeah, so we decided to talk about, after being mistaken, being wrongly guided, how do we, get back to the proper creed and the proper methodology. And so many of you have heard our stories before. I myself, I used to be, in the circles of the Salafi / Wahhabi / Madkhali branch of, that methodology. So, and for those who may be familiar with that, in the early mid-90s, this branch started taking off, and it really, took ground in Philadelphia, New York, and, the East Coast. And so it was a subculture inside the cult of Wahhabism, you know, and they basically relied on Saudi Arabian scholars who were like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? They were fans of the Saudi government, and so anybody who you know, didn't adhere to that, you know, that rigid methodology, you know, that's where that whole thing, throwing people off the minhaj, you know. And so anybody who didn't agree with their narrow and shallow version of how to apply Islam, you know, people became, you know, ostracized, marginalized, and, you know, and we was thinking that it was, you know, well, at first, after I started seeing this stuff happening, I used to just think that it was just like these N-words are ignorant, man, you know. But then after doing some studying, you know, I realized that it was bigger than that. It was actually a doctrine that they had, you know, that at the time I didn't know it was called Wahhabiyya, you know, because I heard that term tossed around, but I didn't really know what it was. And so then, you know, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took me through my trial, you know, I actually ended up getting thrown off the minhaj, and, you know, people boycotting. And those who remember, you get boycotted, they don't give you salams, you know, they don't talk to you. And then if you do talk to them, you had to, you know, you had to clarify your minhaj, you know. And then after that, they had to send it overseas to make sure you were clear by somebody that you know, you don't know, and they barely know. And that person was responsible for basically your salvation in Islam, you know. And so all of that nonsense, you know. And so it was a trying time until I really realized, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up some doors for me. And I realized that it was just a sect and a cult, you know, and it was an offshoot of Islam. And so I remember one time when I was in it, and I remember I was in Philadelphia one time, and we were, I think it was after Eid or something, we were like doing the breakfast, and I was with some brothers from Philadelphia. And for those who know, you know, the Masjid, Germantown Masjid, which is known as Masjid Sunnah and Nabawiyah now, but back in the day, we just called it Germantown Masjid, Germantown. And I remember I was with some brothers, and then some brother was talking about the Dawah Center. And I don't know if it's still there or not, but it used to be a place called Triple IN. And Triple IN is something, Islamic International something network. I can't remember. But there was a brother who was praising the Dawah Center. And then there was another brother who said, oh, the fitness center? Right? And this was like maybe 95, 96. It was like 1996. He was like, the fitness center? And so that caught my attention, because back then, you know, that was the talk, you know, Germantown, and, you know, certain personalities that were going there, and, you know, everybody else was thrown off, and that was the place to go. That was the place to make hijrah to, and all that kind of stuff. And so that brother caught my attention. I'm like, why, you know, I didn't say anything. I'm just observing, but I'm like, why would he call it the fitness center? You know, so there were people who were already ahead of the curve and were very well aware of this movement called Salafiyya, you know, that it was not, you know, a return to the pure minhaj of the Salaf, but it was actually Wahhabiyya renamed, you know. It was Wahhabiyya renamed, you know. And so it took me a while to really figure it out, but just doing some research, you know, then it started to become clear. And then I started, you know, but when that brother caught my attention, and this brother, actually, I had seen him at the Quba Institute in Philadelphia with our beloved teachers, Ustad Anwar and Anis Muhammad. You know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve them both. You know, I used to frequent there sometimes. And of course, during that time, you know, they used to tell us, you know, stay away from them, that they're deviants, you know, even though that Ustad Anwar was, when he graduated from the University of Medina, he was at the top of his class of about 120 people, an American brother from Philadelphia, a black brother, you know, outshining everybody else, you know, who came from all over the world to go to that university. He graduated the year he graduated, he was the top of his class. And so, and they used to always undermine him because he was Hafiz of Quran. And so that wasn't enough. You know, well, what about his minhaj? You know, and that's the stuff they used to say. And I remember one particular incident that it was funny, because there was a brother who was one of the leaders of this Madkhali movement. And then there was another brother who was a part of another group. And so both of them went and prayed behind Ustad Anwar. One because they figured he was a deviant, and the other one was because they didn't know if he was praying north, southeast or not. So it was like there's a whole bunch of mixed emotions there, right? And so all of this stuff was confusion. So I was trying to figure out where it came from. And at first I just chalked it up to just, people going over here and, coming from here being, N-words and just learning some Arabic. But then it was actually a doctrine that they were learning. And so when I got thrown off the minhaj, it started to become clear, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was opening up other doors. And that's when he put me on, people who were teaching Ahl Sunnah. And even during that time, I had heard about people like Sheikh Nur Hamim Kellam, may Allah preserve him, who was one of the first ones that was ahead of this movement and to call it out. I remember reading some articles he had back in 1995, when this thing, before it really started to take off big. 95 was a pivotal year for the Salafi movement in the Philadelphia area, And then I remember reading some stuff from Sheikh Nur or hearing some stuff, and it was like, okay. But I didn't really understand what he was saying at the time, because all of it was the opposition really having a loud voice, and they, like really demonizing him, calling him a Sufi deviant and all of this stuff. And those who are familiar with the movement, like if they had some type of, they were willing to take you down, they had a whole system of assault. They would have like these, 40, 50 page PDF refutations, and really it was a bunch of jargon, but they would take one statement that somebody said and then have like 100 proofs against one statement. And it was seemingly scholastic, You're like, wow, this person is out of it. And they got all the proof to prove it, and it was a bunch of one-sided jargon, And so it started to learn this stuff. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, blessed me to be rescued from that by getting thrown off the minhaj. So that was probably like the best thing that ever happened in my life, Even though it was hard, in the city where I live in, I was always, a person who helped people, always assisting Muslims. And then when they threw me off, to see the same kind of people, that, would pray with me one day and then I give me salams the other day. And it's still, the impact from that is still, present today, that people I know from the schoolyard, man, people I know from before before any of us became Muslim, when I speak to me to this day, because they feel like that, I'm excommunicated, that since I got, because they throw you out of Salafiyah, and in order for you to come back to be on the haq, you got to like prove yourself. You got to make these, what they call it, you got to make these clarifications and all that. And I wasn't willing to do all that, like, listen, man, and I told him, like, man, Allah makes Muslims, man. I'm not beholden to any of you. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't have no power over Jannah and Jahannam. What are you talking about? So, and then, so I was never that kind to just go along to get along. I always had my own mind. But, at any rate, it was just, being able to get out of that. And, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me to Ahl Sunnah teachers and, some key people. I mentioned this before. One was Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamid Ali, may Allah preserve him. I have known him for many years. And before he graduated from the university in Morocco, he was just always a stand-up kind of guy, very friendly, approachable, nice brother. And he has studied a little bit with Ustad Anwar and them. And so he was one of the ones who was pivotal in helping with that transition. Another one was Sheikh Abdurrahman Sandalani. We had him on the show before. May Allah preserve him. He was always, when I met him from the beginning, he was always vocal against Salafis and Wahhabis. And at the time, it was just like, okay, he was the deviant, what I mean? But I was always the type that I would listen to what people said before I came to a conclusion. And so I would listen to him and I'm like, man, this brother, he's on point, Then I met another brother that they was, they was calling him a Sufi, this kind of stuff. But this brother was very knowledgeable and he was very humble, And so looking at all that stuff and then looking back, it was just a whole, then I realized that I was in the movement that was part of a movement that was part of a movement. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the natures of these deviant groups and splinter groups, that they end up producing another group that breaks off because this group doesn't agree with this one, and then they gather some followers. Then somebody inside that group doesn't agree with them. Then they break off and do something. And this is what's been happening even now in that Madkhali movement. They all, claim to follow the same scholars and the same books, but they all are divided. It's almost like that, like in the Western movies where the cowboys are playing cards with each other, but they all laughing and joking, but they got the gun. All of them got a gun under the table, right, ready to shoot each other at the first sign of danger, right? And so now, just looking back, I was like, okay, I can't even believe, And then going deep into the doctrine, because I remember they didn't really, discuss a lot of these things, because I know now that they didn't know, and they were only taking bits and pieces. For instance. I remember when they used, one of the brothers I was learning with, he was telling us about the people who were Asharis and was saying that they only believe in 13 attributes, right? And so at the time, there was no other information around. Nobody was really openly like teaching, right? And so like, wow, how could somebody only believe in 13 attributes? So, the first thing to come to mind, I know Allah has 99 names, right? They only believe in 13. Like, how do they, you know what I'm saying? And so listening to the explanation, that's how, and then they would say that, they deny the attributes. But now knowing the true way, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the scholars have determined 13 necessary attributes, right? Because Allah's names and attributes, they are unlimited, right? But 13 necessary attributes that the scholars have put together. So they just like deliberately left that part out, And I seen in that movement, they were, this whole pick and choose kind of methodology. Whatever they want to use to fit their argument, they'll choose it, and they will leave all of this other stuff off. I remember, some of these big name scholars that they had that would come from overseas, and of course, I'm an N-word from the hood. I'm thinking like, thinking that the other man's ice is colder, because they were, they were Middle Eastern, and they came over and they spoke some Arabic, and they, they wore the red and white tablecloth over their hair, right? And they speaking, so we didn't know. And so I remember them saying things like, somebody asked them about Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and Imam Nawawi. So I remember one of them saying specifically that, yeah, we take from them, but they enter the door of Aqidah through the back door, right? Saying like they didn't know Aqidah, and they like boldly say this, and even though they say this now, that because Imam Nawawi and Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Sheikh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, these are well-known Ashari scholars who cannot be denied by the Ummah. But because they were Ashari, they will undermine them, because there was a whole assault on the tradition of Ahl Sunnah and this whole do-it-yourself and this reformist movement that was part of that whole movement, mixed in with the Wahhabiyya, and then the reformists, correcting what came before with Al-Albani, all of that mixed together. And it was just a big mess. Where even now you see the traces of it now, where oftentimes you'll hear people, just casually saying, I have to research it myself. I researched it, or I got to do my own research. And they don't know how to do research, because they thinking that because Al-Albani researched Hadith on his own, that now I could just research any topic and I could question something, and this whole thing, where's the Dalil? If you have to ask for Dalil, then that means that you are not capable of even discussing the issue, right? So, and that whole thing, even now, people are like, what's your Dalil on this? What's the evidence on this? And a lot of the distortions that come by way of that movement that people sometimes are still bogged down with, And so just watching it after I got kicked out, it just really made me, I'm like, okay, now, it's not just about, being with this group of people who are ignorant or just N-words. It's the whole thing, And then as related to the topic, after you've been mistaken, recovering after you've been mistaken, I had to realize that I had to throw the whole thing away, because I was like deeply involved. I was like in what they call the inner circles when I was with those Madkhalis. I was like in the inner circles. Like, so I had all of the latest news, the latest reputations, the latest personality, who was next to get thrown off, you know, all of that stuff. I was in the inner circles, right? And but even in the inner circles, I always observed, you know, and it's just form my own thing, you know. And so in those inner circles, you know, everybody got to be of the same exact mindset. So if you offer any kind of opposing opinion, you start to get looked at as suspect, you know. And that whole thing about, you know, if you vouch for a person, if you like they have a certain personality, they're targeting for destruction, and you're like, oh man, that's a good brother. Now you automatically become a suspect. So now your minhaj is in question because they question that person's minhaj. And oftentimes they never talk to nobody. So you all remember this whole thing about, you know, going to the scholars overseas to get a fatwa, right? And so they would give a loaded one-sided question concerning the individual that they already agreed in the inner circles what their view was. And so all that they had to do was call a scholar that worked with them, right? And he would give them a favorable fatwa. Oh, Sheikh, what do you say about a man in America, so-and-so, and say like an anonymous, but they really mean a specific person who says this, that, and the other, and all. What do? That man is to be avoided. And then the next week on their website, Sheikh such and such warns against such and such. But Sheikh such and such never knew who the person they was talking about. And so that's the harms of taking fatwa from people who don't know your situations, right? And so now in our areas, right? So if somebody reads that and they trust these people for knowledge because they've been promoting themselves as being thicker, that they were trustworthy, right? You read on the website, Sheikh so-and-so warns against such and such. And so then they get a biography of the Sheikh, and you think that he's the greatest Sheikh since sliced bread. But really, he was a professor in the university, and he was at the bottom of his class. Not only was that we had sheikhs here from America that did perform better than the great sheikh that they said that they had, right? The people who came from America performed better than them, right? And so then, okay, now so now you're going against the Sunnah, you're opposing the Sunnah. You know, we got to follow the ulama. You know, with the ulama make a ruling, we are obligated to follow the scholars, and all of that jargon that they put together without never teaching people the principles. And so it caused a lot of confusion. It caused a lot of splitting. It caused people to break up with families. It damaged marriages. And the whole time, it was all about having notoriety and being famous, being the people who are trying to be in control of Islamic information, right? And so, alhamdulillah, you know, so recovering from that, I realized I had not just you know, I had to realize I had to throw the whole thing away, you know. And in some cases, I had to throw away people that some of them were kind of sincere, but then a lot of them, they just, you know, they can't escape it. You know, even now you see people who, you know, they might not say that they're Wahhabi, right? But they still have an affinity to Ibn Taymiyyah, who's the figurehead of this whole movement. Who's the figurehead of the whole movement, right? Or people might, you know, you don't hear them saying the Salafi title now, but back then it was Da'wah to Salafiyya, Da'wah to Salafiyya, Salafi, right? And now that the movement has been exposed, right? Now they're Athari, right? Now they change, it's a name change again. Now they're Athari. Some of them claiming to be Hanbali and all this kind of stuff, right? But they still have the same, or they might not be, you know, they might not be as in tune with Wahhabi methodology, but they still follow Ibn Taymiyyah. And so one of the things that you know is that those who follow that movement, they can never get around certain names. And they say if you're a true Salafi, right? In order for you to be a true Salafi, you gotta say names like Ibn Uthaymeen, Bin Baz, Al-Albani, Fawzan, Ibn Qayyim, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, Ibn Taymiyyah. You cannot get around those names if you're going to be a true Salafi, right? But if you're going to truly follow the Salaf, you never have to mention those names. If you truly follow Salaf, you never have to mention those names. But if you're going to be a true Salafi, as they say, you have to mention those names. So if people who say they're Salafi and they never mention those names, they will become suspect, right? And so even people who separated from the Wahhabi part, because there's some great, you know, some illustrious personalities now who thrown off the yoke and word with Wahhabiyya, but they still following Ibn Taymiyyah, right? And then Ibn Taymiyyah, the great scholar, the great faqih that he was, his issues were in belief. His main issues were in belief that he got reprimanded for, that he got locked up for. And then so they changed the narrative. And now it's like so much academic dishonesty that they promoted back then, as if people wouldn't discover it. As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make it so that the truth will come out, because they will only read selections from books, certain books they want to refer to. And one of the things that used to trouble me, right? And when I started paying attention, it was always Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Taymiyyah, right? And I knew the time of the Salaf was for the first 3 generations. And then I started thinking like, well, what about these centuries in between the Salaf and Ibn Taymiyyah? And you'll be hard pressed if you go back, and I don't suggest you do it, but if you go back and look at their websites and stuff, you'll be hard pressed for them to mention any of those scholars from that time. Because the great illuminaries like Imam Ghazali was during that time, and many others that they just glossed over. And then from the time of Ibn Taymiyyah up until Ibn Abdul Wahhab, the time in between them, Ibn Taymiyyah died 728 Hijri, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab died 1206 Hijri. That's four centuries with no connection between them with a sanad, and so they don't even really take from scholars between there. So how are they following the Salaf when they have broken chains? How are they following the Salaf when they have broken chains? So all of these things started as I was studying. Then I had other teachers making the stuff clear. So they used to talk about isnad, and they was just really about, okay, hadith isnad, right? But they never really extended it to the isnad as far as transmitted knowledge from generation to generation, because they knew they couldn't produce that, right? They knew they couldn't produce that. And so it was so many things that I started to discover, and just made me think, okay, I really got to throw all this stuff away, all these lectures I done traveled to, and these books that some of them I was starting to memorize and listen to all these principles. Like I really had to throw all that stuff away. You know what I'm saying? And it's been difficult, it's been difficult. And the backlash that I got, and some of the assault, on my family, on myself, people, trying to belittle my name even nowadays. But alhamdulillah, but it's better to live like that and stand on business and live in truth than to be a follower of a cult and not even have your own mind, because so many of those people, they're like mindless, they're like mindless. And all they know is slogans. All they know is slogans, Quran and Sunnah, return to the Salaf, all of this nonsense, right? And so, it was a big favor, but alhamdulillah, I know that was a lot in my opening, but it was a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that to be exposed. And, and then the other part is, a lot of people are struggling with this, to be able to refute that, not just be quiet on the sideline, because I know a lot of brothers who are sincere that are still in that movement but can't make the connection or be able to break away from it, and it's difficult. So they'll just be silent, but they're not open about being Salafi no more. They're not about the personalities no more. There are some people that I see online, and I'm like, damn, man, this brother's still stuck. He's still stuck, man. He really think that Sheikh Rabi was the scholar of Jarh wa Ta'dil. They still think that this such and such scholar is this great scholar. They still think that these scholars are the go-to scholars, where according to real scholarship, they couldn't even hold a scholar's pencil. And so a lot of these things really, and I know I had to learn to not be bitter. Because because it's like in the streets, when you realize you got played, man, somebody got to go. You know what I'm saying? If somebody get you for a package or took you or did you a 3-card Molly or whatever, any kind of flim flam, if somebody got you on the street, somebody got to go, because you don't play people like where we come from. And then when it's done Islamically, you don't really see it the same way, because you think, this deen is what I gave my life for. But it was the same thing. It was a con job. It was con men doing con man work in religion. And so once I learned that, then it made it easier to really just get over it, but And so that brings us to, just realizing after you've been mistaken, being humble enough to realize it and accept that you've been wrong, you've been played, you've been bamboozled, And I know I had to say that to myself, man. I've been bamboozled because most of us, when we growing up, we be like, man, we're not done. We can figure stuff out. Especially we come from the street, we have to learn fast. We have to learn quick. We learn all the personalities, all the moves, all the games, all the tricks. And then somebody was doing a whole trick on us with the religion the whole time, And so that's a lot to digest because, as I said, nobody wants to feel like they've been played. Nobody wants to feel like that they're stupid, right? And it's not that we're stupid. We were just denied access and we were deprived, And now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us like platforms like this and other, Ahl Sunnah scholars who have been speaking out and teaching, and we have access to so much information, then, our gratitude has to be that we learn it and digest it. And we also teach it and refute people, and address people. Sometimes it's hard. Some of these people are friends that we've known for years are still stuck in this thing, and we have to learn how to maneuver through it and help them because we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped us. All right, so I'll stop there. It's good to see you two Imams live in a living color. Y'all left me hanging for a minute, but I made it through, mashallah. So I'll pass it to Imam Naeem, and then Imam Amin will go after that.
Imam Amin looking like he want to go.
Then let him go.
Not true. False.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Keep coming back, Imam Faheem. You know how they say in the rooms?
Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
Yeah, I feel like you were just sharing just now.
Oh, I was, man. I was.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Muhammad ibn Abdullahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. When you was talking, I was thinking, I think it's still been less than a week since Sheikh Muhammad Hisham Kabani has passed, rahimahullah. And I mention him because he famously said in the late 1990s that, I forgot what exact number, but he gave a number to it, something like 90% or something like that. He said 90% of the masjids in America were Wahhabi. And he wrote this book and other books in English. This book was published, 1996. But when he said that, I don't remember. I think he said it to Congress or something like that. It circulated far and wide. It wasn't like he just said it at some Islamic conference somewhere. But I remember when he said that, people like me who didn't identify as Salafi, did not follow a madhab in creed or fiqh, thinking I'm just Muslim, Quran and Sunnah, right? I'm like, 90%, that's kind of high. Now, he said this at the time when they were taking over masjids and they talking about the Wahhabis, and they were expanding quickly, especially in the Black community. Sometimes just by becoming Wahhabi or self-described Salafis, or by getting their masjids taken from them by force. Or as we say in the streets, by hook or crook, they were becoming Wahhabi. Or sometimes they got broken off with some bread. There's that aspect too that a lot of people don't know about. But in any case, I remember thinking like, I don't think that's true, man. 90%. I forgot the exact number. You might have said 95 or 99, but it was a very high number. I was like, I don't know. I don't think that's true. And at that time, I remember, you know, if you would have asked me back then, what is a Salafi or what is a Wahhabi, I would have told you a bunch of outward things. I would have told you, like, you know, the men, they have to wear short pants above their ankles. If you don't, you're a deviant, you're off of it. And when they meet you, before they even finish getting the salams out, they're going to be looking at your ankles to see if you're one of them or not. They're women. They all wear black or other dark colors. They are strict. And if you're not with them, you are a deviant. If you would have asked me back then, I might have told you, if you would have asked me, hey, describe a Wahhabi or Salafi, I might have told you something like that back then. The amazing thing about it is none of those things make you a Wahhabi or not make you a Wahhabi. Nothing I mentioned had anything to do with creed or belief. Lo and behold, I didn't know it at the time, but I was a Wahhabi too. Even though the Wahhabis would have called me a deviant. That's why we have this thing that we've given a label to called a default Wahhabi. It's a default Wahhabi. 9 times out of 10, if you become Muslim in this environment, not 100%, but 9 times out of 10, the Islam that you're going to embrace is Wahhabi Islam. It's actually like it's a, what's the thing where the thing contradicts each other? It's an oxymoron, Wahhabi Islam. Anyway, right? Because they have a set of beliefs which did not come from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with any transmission. It's the twisting and the corrupting of the beliefs that was given to us by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I began to realize that when I got more and more exposure to Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and one of the things that I distinctly remember is getting my hands on an English translation of the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani, published by Dar Fiqh. You know their English translations. Woo! Ah! But the Arabic be nice and clear and everything, but the English, oh my God, right? But anyway, and in that book, after the introduction, because you know I'm trying to get into the Maliki method, and this is one of the popular books you're going to hear about. It's somebody that doesn't know where to jump in there. I'm just I went to Atlantic Avenue, and in Brooklyn, and amazingly I brought it from Dar Salaam, the bookstore, Dar Salaam, right? And it was one of I don't know if they don't even probably have books anymore. They just sell oils, incense, and stuff. But anyway, back in those days, they always had a section that I don't know. It was like the non-frill section. So I think it was in the back in the corner on the left, just books he might have just had, right? And I seen it. Salaf Ibn Abi Zayd. I still have it. Right? Like, subhanAllah, this Maliki fiqh. I want this. So I got it, right? And I started reading it. When I got to the Aqidah section, he didn't mention nothing about Aqidah is divided into 3 sections. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, and Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat, which I thought that's what Tawheed was, right? That's where you start at. I'm reading the whole thing, and you know how you read something, you expect to see something, then you go back to see if you missed it, right? I'm doing like that. Like, wait a minute. Don't mention that here. This is a good, reliable book here, huh? Right? And so for me, I think that's at one of the points where the light started to come on at. And then alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me to become Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah through the Sheikh Uthman Danfodio. May Allah envelop him with his mercy. Amin. And the deep thing about that is that I didn't know nothing about Usul, nothing about nothing. But just by adhering and clinging to his teaching, Allah protected me from any further deviance or any further influence by Wahhabi or any other thing, any other thing like that. So, alhamdulillah. But I think the thing about me personally is that, oh, before I say that, one of the things that I want to mention, because a lot of people, when we talk about topics like this or related to it, a lot of times people go, oh, here we go again. This Akida stuff. Bro, can y'all talk about something else? Akida ain't putting no food on my table, right? People make comments like that. And people think that we talk like this just like to attack people or to, to get into some, highly intellectual, highly detailed, high level Akida subject. And that's it. None of the stuff we talk about is actually high level. That's the amazing thing about it. It's all basic. But what we're actually trying to do is change the default setting in this country. It's not about people or groups. We're trying to change the default setting. Just like me, I was a Wahhabi and didn't know it. Most of us are like that. That's why they can't detect it, because this is so pervasive. That's all that you see around you. Everybody's like this. So how are these brothers just calling it out? And that's the problem, because that's not Islam historically or globally. This is the Islam that we've been getting and we think is normalized. So when people like us call it out, they think, oh, he just tripping, he's just word semantics and all that. No, it probably is much deeper than that. So it's not about individuals or attacking people. Anyway, we love our people, so we're not attacking them. What we're trying to do is, within our sphere of influence, change the default setting so that when somebody becomes Muslim now, they don't automatically, by default, just become a Wahhabi just because they took Shahada in America. No, we want when people become Muslim that they're Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, that their intentions are fulfilled, that they are in fact a Muslim, and their belief can be traced back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not some dude 250 years ago that was working with the British and all that kind of stuff to take over a country. No, we want the Islam to go back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nobody else. And so just keep that in mind when you hear people take shots and talk like that. People are mischaracterizing what we're doing. We are actually inspired. Now, we don't only call ourselves Ashari, we are inspired by Abu Hassan al-Ashari because he himself was misguided. He was a Mu'tazila. And like Imam Faheem said, when Allah opened up his heart and he became Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, he didn't sit in the corner like, okay, Allah guided me. Hell with the rest of y'all. I'm good, right? He didn't do that. Allah guided him, and like as they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. So he stood on the minbar, made his position clear, wrote books, and taught about it. And he did that for 23 years until he died. That's an inspiration for us. So we don't just, okay, Allah gave me some knowledge. That's good for me. If y'all go to hell, that's your business, I'm good though. We don't have that type of disposition. So I wanted to make that clear. We're trying to change the default settings. And so for me personally, as far as recovering, after, being misguided and trying to get back right, me personally, I never had a problem with upgrading or correcting my views or opinions, right? Because I'm human, right? I can be mistaken. A lot of people, sometimes they don't leave them. A lot of times what people do is they form opinions about things before actually investigating. And sometimes we have to have the intellectual maturity to be like, listen, I don't know, I don't have all the information, so I'm going to suspend my opinion until I find out more. Most of us don't do that. We hear about something and we form an opinion about it based upon how it was presented to us. And that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. How you got a strong opinion about something and you don't even know what the thing is, but you got a strong opinion about it. You emotionally attached to it. You 10 toes down, ready to go in, and you don't even know what the hell you talking about. That's a lot of us. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't define the thing. You don't know when the thing started. You don't know how the thing reached you, but you're ready to go all in for it. And that's too many of us. We have to have the we have to have the type of thing like, well, okay, I hear you, but I need to research more. So I don't know if this thing's good or bad yet. I just put it there on the shelf. Like Imam Siraj used to always say, put it on the shelf, right here. Put it on the shelf right here. Right? We'll come back to that later. We have to do this with issues a lot of times. So, alhamdulillah, at least at the time when I'm going through this transformation, and I still consider myself going through the transformation, but back then, when I say back then, like in the very late 1990s, early 2000s, right? I didn't see it as a major change. I was like, I look at it almost like, a car. You got to get a tune up, right? You take it in. You don't throw the whole car away. You take the spark plugs out and put some new ones in, and you drive off. When the oil gets old, dirty, and low, you don't just take the whole oil pan out, the gasket, the engine. No, you flush the oil out, you change the filter, and you put more oil in and drive off. But a lot of times we don't think like that, and we say this thing is either all good or it's all bad. Nah, things come in components, things come in parts. When you get some new, updated, more correct information, you take out the bad information, you put the new information in, and you keep moving. I think a lot of us have a problem with that, and we get stuck right there, or we get too old. Like, I'm too old to change. I know this thing is wrong, but I'm gonna still stay with it. Or all my friends are over here, so I'm going to stay with it, even though intellectually I know this thing don't make no sense. And I think a lot of us have these different types of hangups that keep us stuck and keep us from recovering, because we have an all or nothing type of mentality. And I think that's part of what hurts us. Alhamdulillah, that problem I never had. I could mention a whole lot of stuff. Some things I did kind of like gloss over, right? But there's some of the things that I glossed over. If you know my story, there's still some people that stuck there for that same reason. They stuck. And they don't know how to recover because they felt like they've been burned, they've been tricked, right? And they go to the extreme. Like Imam Faheem said, like in the streets, oh, somebody got to go. You played me, you tricked me, you hustled me. It's going all the way, right? We either have that response or we just lay down and submit and stay stuck. There's two extremes. Well, alhamdulillah. So that's my introduction. I'll pass it on to Imam Amin Muhammad of Atlantic City, New Jersey, the Boardwalk Bully, aka Imam Otis.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. That was some interesting therapy. Thank you for sharing. You guys should be on the way of recovery. This could be quite painful, but we got to get through it. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. When I think about this topic, because it struck me last week while we were talking, and I was thinking about this recovery after being mistaken. And I want to concentrate on that for a little bit. After being mistaken, sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. And that's why it becomes difficult to make the adjustments, which is the recovery part. A lot of times we're mistaken because we weren't given the whole story. And we believe in a general thing, but we may not identify all the specifics that make up that general thing. So in other words, I want to be a Muslim. I want Islam. That's a general thing. Now, there are specific things that make you a Muslim, that compose the religion of Al-Islam that you may not be aware of. And I'm going to give you one that I think a lot of us don't pay attention to this. Our religion, al-Islam, reached us through human beings. I'm going to repeat that. Our religion, our deen, al-Islam, reached us through human beings. That's very important to understand. Some of us, even though we know that, we don't take that in consideration when we receive information, right? We take the general thing that Islam is the deen of Allah. Allah revealed the Quran and the Prophet conveyed the Sunnah, and we stop there in our thought process, and then we transfer that process from the time of revelation to us now, and we skip how it got to us. That alone is one of the easiest ways you'll misunderstand Islam. That you break the connection of human beings between you and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and between you and Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. It's very important to understand. And the way sometimes people present the deen to us as if they have revelation themselves. Like, Allah told me. Allah didn't tell you anything. Some man told you that. Some woman told you that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't tell you nothing. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't tell you nothing. You got it from somebody. Somebody said, what the heck is he talking about? What I mean is that when you're dealing with human beings, there's always the possibility of misunderstanding. And it may not be you. It may be somebody else. You understood perfectly what they said, but they didn't understand well what they received. And that could be the part of the confusion. So understanding that it's not always because you're a bad person or you're not intelligent. Sometimes it's just you were misinformed. That's it. And with that in mind, you should be a little bit easy on yourself and realize that human beings make mistakes. I follow human beings, and sometimes I fell into mistakes. That's it. Now, once I discover that mistake, I have a gift from Allah. It's called al-aql, the intellect, which means you use your intellect to critically evaluate and examine information that you receive for truthfulness or falsehood. And that's your work. That's everybody's work. And that work is going to exist until we die. So even today, we're going to learn things, and tomorrow we're going to discover we didn't fully understand those things. There were aspects of it that we were misinformed about. And that's a process that will help you recover from being misinformed. When you realize that, realizing I really don't know. And let me be honest, all of us really don't know. We know some things, but many, many, many other things are hidden from us. Naturally, and then some things are intentionally hidden from us for someone's objectives, someone's plans and plots. That's a part of human beings. Somebody is not giving you all the facts. so they can lead you to where they want you to be for their own objective. That's real. So I'm saying that because I often think, how do you get a person to listen without getting offended and taking things personal? So that we can actually have a real conversation. A lot of times, the person attributes being mistaken to equate to stupidity, right? I can't admit I was mistaken. Does that mean I'm stupid? No, you're not stupid. You were misinformed. And maybe part of it was a lack of access. And all of us have a lack of access. Every single one of us. None of us, not a one, has access to all the facts. Some have more access than others, but none of us have access to all the facts. One of my sheikhs, he said something to me that gave me that understanding. He said, the published books, Islamic books around the world, I'm talking about Islamic books in the Arabic language. He said the books that are published are far less than the manuscripts that are spreading through libraries and houses all around the world. There are more handwritten manuscripts than there are published books. And if you ever went to like a book fair, like the International Book Fair that's coming up next month in Cairo, right? You'd see like literally hundreds of thousands of books. And that's not all of them. Some books are just not there. Hundreds of thousands of books, titles, right? When you see the amount of information that's published, you could never read it if you had 3 lifetimes. That's how much stuff. And you lived each 100 years for each lifetime. And you lived 3 of them. You lived 300 years. You still wouldn't cover all that stuff that's published. Then he said, that's less, what he said, than the manuscripts. So how many manuscripts that people wrote that haven't been published yet? Way more than that. Then he said, the manuscripts in comparison to the books that were lost or destroyed is similar to the published books to the manuscript books. So the books that are just gone, mafkud, they don't exist no more, are far more than the manuscripts and the published books. That's incredible when you think about it. So you think about places like Timbuktu. What was in those libraries? We don't have it anymore, right? And many other places, Hadramaut, so many books that are missing, right? Baghdad, those libraries that was in Baghdad, in Spain. And every time there's wars and battles, books are the first thing that's snatched up and destroyed and moved. So you'll find books that are in the libraries in Princeton and Cambridge and different places, and Yale and Harvard, that were original manuscripts that they took from somebody when they went in the country that you know nothing about. So just the sheer amount of knowledge that you're missing should humble you, right? Like you don't know everything. There's a lot of stuff you don't know. A lot. And I'm talking about valuable information you don't know. So our teachers used to say, the first thing they would teach us, Kalimatul la a'lam nisfu din. The word I don't know is half the religion. Because in reality, you don't know. And Allah told us in the Quran, Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah knows and you don't know. You don't know. And you are only be given قليل من العلم, a little bit of knowledge. That's it, not much, right? With that understanding, you should realize that I'm going to be mistaken in some things, right? Now add that for us in the West, especially in African Americans, they've been hiding knowledge from us before we became Muslim. So there is a sinister plot against us already. You don't think that plays into how we get our Islam? That we've been facing oppression prior to Islam as a people. You think that they're gonna let us have Islam and not try to mix it up so we can't rise? Of course. Of course. That's a part of it we don't even think about. And they play international oppression, right? Not just local, not just national, international oppression. So they saw African Americans, particularly going toward Islam, they got to interrupt that. So that's a whole, and they have international reach, international allies, international partners. You don't think that plays a role in the knowledge you get to you? It does. So all the stuff we talk about, different movements, a lot of involvement, government involvement is in all of that. Your religious understanding was controlled by sinister governmental influence to control things, to actually keep people in certain positions. Ignorance is the best way to keep you controlled. You don't know. You can't rise up. You can't get your freedom. And give you enough just so you believe you're free while you're still under our control through our allies. I'm saying all that to just let us know to recover after being misguided, mistaken, is first thing is admittance. You have to admit that, I was mistaken. And then not take that to feel so woe is me. Realize there are a lot of things against me that wants me to be misinformed. And then start taking the path to learn. And I kind of went long on this, but I think it's really important that we understand that. Like, you don't know Islam. You don't. You think you do. You really don't know Islam. And I swear, every time I study, every day, I learn something I ain't know. Every day. And I've been studying the deen, Islamic movements and stuff for 44 years. And 44 years later, I've been in almost every major center in the world. I'm still realizing there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I know a lot from information and access. And I still realize, man, you don't know nothing. Like, seriously, every day I learn some stuff and I just be sitting back like, we got a long way to go. Right? We have a long way to go. So just imagine they got us. You don't even know 2% of stuff. And you acting like you a master. You don't even know 2%. You don't even know how Islam reached you, and you talking. I don't know where I got this from, right? I don't know who made this whole doctrine. I gotta have the slightest idea. You actually think that's the Prophet Muhammad? I'm not laughing, but when we really think about it, it's funny. Like, the Prophet said, "How do you know that? You have no idea. You don't know where you get it from. Not a clue." But You standing on that 10 toes down as Imam. Like, really, if I ask you, how do you know Prophet said that? Let me tell you something. I was in Lebanon, right? And Lebanon is like the book capital of the world for Islamic books. Some of the major publishers for this part will be unnamed. I used to go to their printing houses. And after going to their printing houses and see what they're doing, I was like, it's haram to take knowledge from these people. Like, after seeing what they do, I said, it's haram to take knowledge from these people. Like, and guess what? They're some of the biggest sellers of books. And you would go, I laugh. I go, because I know the people. I know this dude's taking a picture and he got all these books behind him. I'm like, the dudes who print those books celebrate Christmas. Do you know that? This guy's sitting, got his big library, got all them books. I'm like, the people who print those books celebrate Christmas. And you're talking about, here's my Dalil. We don't know that. It's to celebrate Christmas, bro. And the one who's editing the books can't even read. Typographical errors, grammatical errors, cut and paste errors, a mess. And you giving fatwa from that. You actually talking about this is the sunnah of Muhammad. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I was in one company. The guy got a stack of Qur'ans and hadith books and using the books for a ladder. I mean, this is your knowledge. This is, right? He's using the Quran and hadith books for a ladder. These are stuff I seen with my own eyes. Like, just like this. Like, and this is common stuff. And when I'm saying that is to say, we don't even know, like, we have to really, really reevaluate a lot of the stuff. Like, you know, we really, really, really have to start using our minds. And really, really start being kind of, you know, most of the books you reading, cut and paste jobs. And we always say, man, that's cut and paste. No, the books you reading is cut and paste. Cutting out stuff, leaving out stuff, putting, yeah. There's no real scholarly examination of these stuff, but that's being put as this is the knowledge. I'll give you an example, and I'll stop because we can go further with this. You read the book. How many of you, be honest, have heard of the Noble Quran? Muhsin Khan, Taqiyuddin al-Hilali. Show it up, Naeem. I know you got all the Wahhabi books, right? So this book, back it up a little bit, back it up.
He got a whole section over there, the Wahhabi section.
This here is all of my Dar es-Salaam collection, nice and pretty, right? I want you, let me see. Can we focus in here? I don't got my glasses, but bring it closer. All right, a little bit down, down, down. Right there. Down a little bit, down, 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 down. Good. I want you to look at this. The Noble Quran in the English language, a summarized version of At-Tabari, Al-Qurtubi, Ibn Kathir, with some comments from Sahih al-Bukhari. I remember that book came out. Everybody was like, yeah, boy, got me some tafsir, got me some hadith. Put that up again. I mean, turn the book like to the side. All right, you see that size of the book? Turn the front again. All right, go up. In Arabic, move it up, put it up a little bit, up, Imam Naeem, up, right there. Come closer. Now, down one, stop, good. Down a little bit, down, 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 stop. A summarized version of At-Tabari. At-Tabari in Arabic is 30 volumes. This is a summarized version of At-Tabari. Tafsir At-Tabari in Arabic is 30 volumes. Each volume around 400 or more pages. That's a summarized version of At-Tabari. Al-Qurtubi is at least 14, in some versions 15, 13 volumes. So that's a summarized version of At-Tabari, Al-Qurtubi, and Ibn Kathir, like average 4 volumes. And Sahih Bukhari, average version 4 or 5 volumes in Arabic. So you're talking about 30, 14, plus 4, that's 48. And then another 4, you're talking about over 50 volumes of books. And turn that book around. That's a summarized version of 50 books. Just use your intellect. Is that a big fat lie or what? Like, come on. That's 50 volumes in Arabic, and they done sold this to us as a summarized version. What kind of summary is that? You took 50 volumes of works and got it into one, and you want me to believe you actually put something in there? Come on. Like just intellectually, how much did you leave out? You know what they left out? Everything that contradict their crazy ideas. That's what they left out, right? Which is most of the books. And then when you read where they put their stuff that they selling us, and you read the original books, you think they didn't say that. They said the complete opposite. But that's in almost every house of every Black Muslim all around the community. As a default, that's the best translation of the Quran. And that's the biggest, fattest lie on the Quran you ever seen. And the ones who gave us that know that. And you know, if you're translating from Arabic to English, there's going to be way more English just to capture the meaning. Even if you're summarizing, it don't make sense. But we never think about that. So that means they gave us this and tell us this is a summary. So what's the real version look like? Like, we never think about it. And guess what? That replaces the real version. And they didn't tell you what did you add that was not in the book and why. What was your selection process of summarizing? When you made this summary, what was your objective? What were you trying to do? What did you leave out? Why did you leave it out? Was it important? Was it necessary? What were you trying to get at through this summary? All of these are legitimate intellectual questions that we never ask. We just go spreading in our communities, spreading lies, fabrications, misinformation, and will hurt somebody over that. And guess what? You ain't had nothing to do with it. It wasn't you who translated this. Some people who don't even got your best interests at heart, who are friends with your enemies, who cooperate with the same people who put you in slavery. So is it not reasonable with all those things that you wouldn't say, I've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run them up, and that's not your fault. You don't even know what's happening. I'm gonna stop there, because when we say what we're saying, that's just a light example, right? An easy example. Does that mean our deen is not true? No, it just means that human beings do what human beings do. We better figure it out. Has nothing to do with the religion. It is money, politics, control, subjugation, racism, classism, all that stuff, politics, all that stuff play a role when a person is not using their brain and don't have access. And I just put forward, we have the same struggle we had coming out of slavery and civil rights and all the stuff, Jim Crow. We got the same problem in Islam, especially us. We got to figure it out. And so part of the recovery is admit we got a problem. You're never going to recover if you don't admit that you got a problem. And we have a problem. We have a serious problem. And for us, we have to grow up and not pass that to our kids. Seriously. We have to learn our deen. You Muslim, you better learn Islam. Not a parrot. You better take every resource you got to learn your deen, because people playing games with us. And listen, especially us as Black community, we the last one on the bottom all the time. So that when that stuff start rolling downhill, lands right on us. So we better be like, ho, wait a minute. Nah. We better produce some learned people. We better realize we're not enemies, that we need each other, because they paid and bought a lot of our smart people. Guy goes to university in overseas, smart guy, want to learn the deen. They like, perfect poster child for us. Let's program him. And he ain't supported by no people, by himself. Goes over there, that's what he thinks, gets programmed, come back, he's a parrot. He ain't a scholar. A parrot. All they do is repeat. And listen, every single one of them eventually start waking up. Now, how far do they change is a difference. Man, Saudi sold me a bag of goods. They know it. But I'm popular now. I'm that dude. I'm that dude now. You see all them sisters, when I give my talk, just foaming at the mouth. Bro, man, I'm the man. I'm LL Cool J of Islam. And you got to remember, some of these dudes wasn't street guys, so they get their street credit in the deen, you know. Like, I wasn't like that on the block, but now I'm the sheikh. And I got the stamp from the sheikhs. The Kibarul Ulama said I'm it. I ain't it to them, I'm just it to y'all, right? I go over there, I'm a boy. But here, I'm the man. Now I'm being serious. And I'm not being funny, I'm being real. So dude is not even going to have the conversation with somebody who know, because, nah, man, you can mess up my bag. And I'm making money. I'm not, man, crazy. You know I'm a graduate. And what does that mean? Like, we don't even use our brains. You're a graduate. Okay, what did you graduate? What did you study? What did you memorize? What books you took? What What sciences did you study? And what did you do in your study? I got a master's degree. What did you do for your master's degree? What cut and paste job did you do? Like really, 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 like real, and not to put you down. I'm just saying, you act like you Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani or An-Nawawi. You ain't do not even 10% of their work for that degree. That degree is toilet paper to them. You know it and I know it. But you come home like, you know I'm a graduate, right? You know I'm the man. Are you kidding me? A man of what? A man of severe delusion. Like, this is what we're faced with. This guy ain't completed one book. And the books were edited by his slave masters that he didn't even realize at the time were slave masters. Well, Mr. Charlie teaching you. This is serious stuff. That doesn't mean he's not smart. He been hoodwinked. He's a smart guy. Maybe if he would have been sitting with scholars, real scholars, and studying books and chains of narration and really, really doing like scholars do, he probably could help us. But now he got to be unprogrammed himself because he spent 10 years, 5 years, 20 years serving the master, being indoctrinated for 20 years. He's a mess. He's actually deluded and he thinks he's a scholar. And that's our reality. That doesn't mean it's all bad. That doesn't mean we can't overcome it. But if we're walking around thinking we've arrived, we are so sadly mistaken. We got a long way to go for arrival, bro. Seriously. That was a long opening. But when I hear those stories, and I have my own, I realize, man, they done us. And we gotta realize it. And then we just gotta work collectively without looking down on each other because we all got the same stuff. They doing it to all of us. And then we gotta realize that and come together and say what we have, let's put this thing together. No jealousy, no hatred, no hating. Listen, this is reality. I got this part, you got that part, you got that part. Let's put this stuff together and fix our people. But as Malcolm said, is some of us like, I'm gonna leave all of this, this, what Master's doing, and we don't realize that we just traded in one master for another. And the master we traded in for is inferior in playing the game than the master we left. In fact, he's a poor copy of the master we left. And we act like he ain't doing the same thing. And actually, the master's controlling him and controlling us through him. Deep stuff. All right, I'm going to close with that, with my opening. But if anyone don't believe me, I'll accept the open challenge, and it'll take me about 10 minutes to prove my point with anybody who disagree. Anyone who disagree, 10 minutes, I'll prove my point. I don't care who you are. 10 minutes, that's all it would take to prove my point. Because we got a false perception of scholarship, right? But when we see real scholars, which we don't see no more, especially us, we'll see the difference. And then it was easy to just humble ourselves and be like, listen, man, they had you, they had me. It's if like they just sold you a beat bag. That's it. I'm sorry. You got had, bro. You got jerked. That's it. But it's cool. Ain't the first time. Let's make sure they don't do it again. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, mashallah. That was a lot. That was a grand opening. Mashallah. Yeah, and really, once you awaken to the mistakenness, and once you've been awakened to what has been mistaken, right? You really, as I said early on, you really got to try not to become angry, right? Because I remember for a period I was just like angry, man. Like I can't even believe that that I even went for this. But at the same time, that was the ego thinking that I'm smart enough to know better. The communities that we come from, we supposed to be smart enough to know better, that nobody get the drop on us and no one outwits us. But and then the people who were responsible for teaching us, they were outwitted as well. They didn't know what they were walking into. Someone dangled this free, you go to the university, you have a chance to be in the Holy Lands. They didn't know the background of the University of Medina. They probably didn't know that it only opened up in 1961. And it was only really a result because prior to that, they didn't really have any real scholarship that they could trace back to the Salaf. And so that was one of the attacks of Al-Sunnah on them. Like, okay, y'all got the leadership. You took over the Hijaz. Where's the scholarship? Besides Ibn Abdul Wahhab's writings, which were not scholarly works. They were like, what they call them? Like pamphlets. All of his works are like pamphlets, There's no really scholarly work that he wrote, and so there was never no connection to the seller to begin with. And then this whole program, when they got the Saudi money, the petrodollars, then they were able to control the narrative. They were able to control the printing presses and whoever they, where they could send people at, and give them money, give them stipends and tell them what to do and what to say and how to respond. And so it was like an inside job on Islam, but we were thinking that it was real scholarship because it came from Medina, and of course, it don't take much to think. Like we know Medina Munawwara, it was where the Prophet ﷺ settled, and that's where he was. And then we got this stuff. We didn't understand what was going on. We just thought that this was like a correction and that kind of stuff. So and like Imam Imam Amin was saying, it's really hard to go back and admit that that you've been played. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of us, we got to go back and look for some of these cues, you know what I mean? Looking at people who come out of this university, and some may not be on the basic level, because many of the ones who were in that subculture of the Wahhabi movement, a lot of them never really graduated. You know what I'm saying? The ones who were like, the Madkhalis, a lot of them didn't really graduate. They went overseas. They sat in the back of the class, or they might have got through one college of Usuluddin, and then they had to come back. And those are the types that who were unrefined anyway. And you probably read that story about one of those guys. I don't know what happened to him, but a few years back, they had a recording about him when he was in Medina, and he told a guy, they got a recorder. He said, "Wallahi, by the Lord of Kaaba, I will F you up." Did y'all ever hear that story? One of those guys in that movement, and there was a lot of stories like that. These guys going over there, they unrefined. Of course, they are totally against tasawwuf. They don't believe any kind of spiritual refinement unless, it's like a clear hadith. One guy is recorded, and he was having a battle with someone in his group, not for someone who opposed him, someone in his group. He said, "By the Lord of the Kaaba, I will F you up." You know what I'm saying? And this person ended up having some, some Jay-Z issues, some Jay-Z Sean Combs issues. And I ain't even gonna tell you all the horror stories that come from people who come from a certain region that went over there and came back, and without any tasawwuf, without any soul purification, all of the horrors that they caused in this area, you know what I mean, that led people, looking for the next person to get thrown off, who is the next personality to follow, who is the next person to be refuted, what books not to take from, all of this nonsense that, and I've seen people who were so-called prominent in that movement become total apostates. One of them, they was credited for taking another, intramural battle person, someone that was in there, they was responsible for taking them down, and then they ended up apostating altogether. And all of that because they couldn't keep up with the minhaj. You know, they couldn't keep up with the minhaj Joneses. You know what I mean? You know how that statement, keeping up with the Joneses? They couldn't keep up with the minhaj Joneses, so they ended up just losing it altogether. And that stuff had an impact on so many people. Now they don't want to admit that they've been played. They just kind of, you know, don't. And these are the people nowadays that we are trying to help because they're displaced. You know what I mean? They don't feel comfortable in any masjid. They've been thrown off. You know, they still got that mindset of, spooked about every other masjid because in their area there's only 3 masjids that you can go to. You know what I mean? 80 masjids in the city and only 3 that you can attend. You know, and all that kind of nonsense. You know, where they even had a list. I don't know if you all remember the list. They had a list nationwide of all the masjids that you can attend, right? And in some places, like in California, they had 2 masjids and both of them were in LA. So if you're in California and you're in the Bay Area, there's just no, you can't go to the masjid and worship Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala because it's not on the list. What kind of nonsense is that? All of that is cult behavior, you know? And so, I mean, it done a lot of damage, and now a lot of people are just backing away from it, but they still haven't shaken it off because of embarrassment, you know? Embarrassment and shame and guilt and all that stuff, which is some of the qualities of, you know, people who are in cults and groups like that. They shame you, make you feel embarrassed and all that kind of stuff. And it's been harmful, but this is why our priority is to make sure that we teach people, that we educate, we inform, and to take care of our people, because we have suffered the biggest, you know, the biggest loss in this thing, you know, where our people are being subjected to this stuff, where it made them, you know, turn against their families, divorce wives, divorce husbands, all of this nonsense over this so-called pure and pristine methodology, you know. They caused so many damages. And any of you live in the Philadelphia area, you know, it's a horror story. It's a horror story, you know. And some of this stuff is still going on now that it's extended. That I heard the other day, like I was talking to one of my teachers. I got a brother that I learned with from the Netherlands, right? And so we were just talking about, I was just telling about the history, like in this area with the Salafi Wahhabi movement. And I told him I was near Philadelphia. And he, you know, the first thing he said, there's a lot of rappers that come out of that city, right? So, and then he was talking about Muslim rappers. He said, a lot of those guys are Muslim, right? Oh, yeah. You know, because to them, that is more acceptable than praying in the masjid that's upon innovation. To be a rapper and talk about all this loose stuff and all, you know, all this nonsense, to them, you get closer to Allah by doing that than going to pray in the masjid that's not yours, you know. And so, yeah, that stuff is crazy, and it's caused a lot of problems. And a lot of people are scared to explore, because once you get burnt like that in something that you believe in, it's hard to really explore. It's hard to really shake it off, because now you got your guard up, you know. And you're like, I don't know, man. If they burn me with this, and this is all Quran and Sunnah, if I go over here, what's going to happen? I don't know. So a lot of people are just comfortable with just staying ignorant, not pursuing anything outside of what they've been taught, or even just being comfortable and being, you know, stuck, you know, being stuck where they at, just going along with it because, you know, hopefully it'll change around, you know. And that's been problematic, you know. So now they're not learning, and now the personalities are dying off. Those people who are controlling the narrative won't let no new personalities really rise up unless they're in the loop. And then, you know, in the loop, they got a loop within the loop. You know what I'm saying? They got a loop of their inner core, and then in that inner core, they got some in the inner core don't really know about. You know what I mean? And then that special group, those are the ones that are the puppet masters of the whole thing, you know. And some of them, they're just quiet, you know. And a lot of them, they won't come public because they get exposed. It's not because they have some humility or they taking the rule like, you know, pictures are, you know, I'm going to go with the position that, you know, images and pictures are haram. No, you don't want people to identify you because people know. You know what I'm saying? Not because you got this humility, you don't want your face to be seen. No, if your face been seen, oh, that's the brother from such and such. That's the one that, you know, that was down Atlantic City. He wasn't in the masjid. You know what I'm saying? And all that kind of stuff, man. So it's been horrible, man, you know. And, you know, a few years ago, they had some of these people that it was a big blow up about some things, and people were adamant in defending their leaders, you know, who were charged with some of these perversions, you know, and even ready to, you know, kill and really to die for these people, you know what I'm saying? And so that's the harms of, you know, being part of these, you know, these cult groups and movements, you know. But back to what we were saying about our priority, that's why our priority is teaching. And part of that teaching, even though this is a platform, we just having discussions for the most part, it's about refuting some things and bringing up these issues that really need to be discussed. So part of it is about, you know, speaking out against that stuff. And part of it is opening up the doors that, you know, for those who've been played and you know, really humble enough to know that they've been played. Look, we extend our hands to yours. We know what it's like. I know what it's like to be in a position of authority and everybody respecting you, and then somebody spreads a lie about you, and now the whole community is against you. You know what I'm saying? I know what it's like, you know. I mean, I've never been on no big platforms, but I can imagine some of those people, it's hard for them to say, you know, man, I spent all this time, I sacrificed, and I got duped, you know. That the doctrine was the doctrine was botched from the beginning. I thought I was getting pure Quran and Sunnah. Come to find out, they incorporated me into a movement, you know. And so a lot of them are being quiet; they're not as vocal. And then some are trying to right the wrongs of it, still using the same kind of thing that caused the problem, thinking that they're going to, you know, really pick and choose what's right from it, you know. But at the same time, like Imam Amin was mentioning, we just need to get together and be like, listen, the priority has to be of taking care of our people. Everybody comes in this country and dumps on us. You know, everybody comes here and uses us as a springboard or a scapegoat for doing what they're doing, and then just leaving us holding the bag. And we can't allow that to happen, because we are smarter people than that. We are braver people than that. You know what I mean? And that's what we want to do without really excluding nobody else, but just prioritizing our people who come from where we come from, and look how we look and live under the same conditions that we live under. We're concerned with them first and foremost. Of course, we're concerned with every single Muslim that says La ilaha illallah. But we're primarily concerned with our people who've been deprived of proper knowledge, who've been having to go through, sometimes had to go through a number of movements, you know what I mean? And then still not even have the basics down. You know how many instances we've come across where people have been Muslim 30 or 40 years? And subhanAllah. And, you know, I've been Muslim over 30 years myself, and I'm only qualified to give somebody a shahada after all this time. I'm only qualified to explain the basics. Imagine someone that's been Muslim 40, 50 years, and they, you know, can't even explain the religion. You know, this is the thing that we are looking to turn around, that we building institutions and building people who are able to learn their deen, actualize the deen, and also teach it. Because the more people that we have on the ground who really know what they're supposed to know, the better we are, the better chance that we have at offsetting a lot of these things. And like we mentioned many times before, in the areas that we live in on the East Coast, you know, this stuff is really prevalent. In other parts of the country, it's really not as bad, you know what I mean, with our people. But where we are, it's horrible. You know, in Atlantic City area, Camden, you know, Philadelphia, it's horrible, you know. And anywhere they have these.
Not Atlantic City, Philadelphia, Atlantic City.
Well, alhamdulillah, Atlantic City is an exception, you know, but it's just on some level, all of it is really horrible. And we got a lot of work to do, you know, because, I mean, we even see some of our people, this is our concern, that, okay, we say Ahlul Sunnah wa Jama'ah, and then you see them in other, like, what are you doing over here with this person? Why are you giving this person the ear? You know, this person is promoting the same stuff that we're warning against. And of course, not to try to control nobody, but just be aware of this stuff, because on the surface, it seems nice. You know, people are quoting the Quran. They even quoting some of our scholars. They even make references to the Salafus Salih. But then there's an agenda behind it. Once they reel you in, you know, then they start talking about this other stuff. Then, you know, they got certain scholars and certain books, and then they talking about Trinitarian Tawheed, and then they talking about all this other nonsense. And, you know, Tawassul is, you know, is akida and not fiqh, and all of these other things that they if you're not careful, they'll make it confusing to you. So now you got to come back and ask questions from the people who taught you. And nothing wrong with that, but then going back to them and then they give you something totally different. If a person is not grounded in what they're supposed to know, they'll become confused and then they'll give up studying altogether, and then it becomes easier just to be, relaxed, you know what I'm saying? And so those are the kind of things we got to pay attention to, man, because it's a hard road when you have to stand on your own. It's a hard road when you have to stand against where the majority of people are just going along, you know what I'm saying? It's just easier, you know what I mean? And they just go along with it because it sounds good, or the speaker, is a personality, someone that they like. Yeah, some of them are our friends, you know what I mean? And that, it messes things up sometimes. But the truth is the truth, the truth is the truth. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq, because it is very important, because I've said this before, it's like cleaning up an oil spill. We're like environmentalists. We got to clean up an oil spill. And many of our friends and associates and peers are like ducks that got hit with the oil spill. We got to pull them out of that, and they've been contaminated, But the contamination looks like knowledge. The contamination looks like something that's authentic, because they call it authentic. You know what I mean? They put the word authentic in front of it, and, they put it in Arabic, they make it shiny. And we didn't know there was oil to contaminate us. And now the person that's cleaning us up, we're looking at them like they the problem. You know what I'm saying? So we have to, for some of us, we have to be ready to admit that we've been contaminated with this doctrine, And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for safety. I mean.
Imam, Amin, you want to go? I seen you writing.
I wasn't writing. I was concentrating. And then he said Atlantic City's like Camden and Philly. I was like, oh, right? So like, I'm joking. Hey, I wanted to say something. How many of you been to the university? Like not prison university, not like the university these guys went to. I'm talking about the real university. How many of attendees have went to university, undergrad, graduate? How many of you went to a university? Completed.
I went to a university in a university.
Did you complete your university studies inside the university?
See, why you get into those details about completion, man?
They do some critical thinking around this place. If that's the case, when I was in the university, I went to the university. No, I didn't go to the university. We went to the community college, right? So I'm asking for a question. Is some of us graduated? Got masters or, PhDs or bachelors? We have some here, right? Or all y'all ex-cons like these guys. What is it? Are we talking to ourselves here, right? Okay. Now, all y'all been to school, and I be teaching, and I'm teaching in universities with MSAs and university students. I've been teaching people who go into universities for years, right? How many of you graduated with a 4.0 or higher? So you was like super student. How many of you graduated through your whole school 4.0 or higher, bonus stuff, whatever? So you got all these degrees. How many of you had a 4.0 grade average or more through your studies? Maintained it.
Them comments stop moving.
No, there's a question. How many? I said 4.0. I didn't say 3.7, right? No, I'm sharing something with you, right? I'm not being smart. I want to share something. We critically thinking through this, right? So That means you can graduate and not be excellent. You could just pass, right or wrong. You can graduate and not be excellent, just pass. Right? That's my point. And whatever you studied in, you may not be an authority in. You studied a field, but you're not the best in that field. And nor did you really, even though you have a master's degree, you're not a master in that field. Is this reasonably true? We're talking in this, I'm guiding you through something, right? So that means it is possible to go to the university, and it is common in our day and time, and the person would finish school, and by the time they're finished, probably 60% of the stuff they learned, they don't know anymore. Would that be safe to say? Give me a percentage of the amount of information you retained throughout your university studies. Give me a percentage. You retained it. If we tested you right now, you would get that percentage. How much you retained? Master's, PhD, bachelor's, associates, whatever you got. How much of that percentage that you retained? Come on, let's critically talk. We're talking here. 50%. Come on, come on. Why is everybody quiet now? It's like, come on, engage me. 30%, 20%, 72%. I would love to test you in your field, right? But you might be the smart one, all right? So look at the numbers. So in reality, when someone comes telling me I graduated, that doesn't mean a lot, right? Like, it doesn't mean a lot for most people. There are some exceptional people. Now, the question is, the one who's coming telling me I'm a graduate, how good were you? And how good are you? Right? Because we know in the world, when you get out of school, you're just a beginner. No one in the field gonna look at you as an authority in nothing. Right? They're not gonna look at you as an authority. So since you know, and I want you to understand that Western educational standards in general are higher than those Islamic school standards. You know, guys are graduating right now and they don't even go to class. They're graduating and they don't go to class. They just read a part of a book and they take an exam on that part of the book and that's it. And they're coming back as scholars. And you will have those guys that graduate and they don't even know Fardu Ain knowledge. If you ask them the ahkam of a tahara or salah and the ahkam of zakah, and they won't know. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to be guessing. But he's talking about he's a scholar. He doesn't know Fardu Ain. If you ask him Fardu Ain, he doesn't know. I met one. Guy had a PhD. He came to Masjid Muhammad. PhD, doctor. He didn't know Fardu Ain. He was a doctor in Sharia. He didn't know Fardu Ain. A doctor, he's a PhD in Islamic studies. There's no Fardu Ain. I was like, you a what? He didn't learn a basic book in fiqh well. He said, we didn't study like that. He got a PhD. What's my point? We can't even if we are, remain like this. If this is our reality, okay, fine. We can't remain like that. So when we're saying we got to go back to the ABCs of Islam, honestly, we got to go back to the ABCs of Islam. We have to go learn the basics of Aqidah, the basis of fiqh, the basis of tasawwuf. We have to learn various Islamic sciences. We have to go back to our tradition. And I know it hurts. I know we think we somewhere, but we can't stay where we at. We have to fix it. And that's the wake-up call for us. It's painful. It's like, man, you know, I'm tired of starting all over. I know. That's why we got to do it right the first time. Right? So you got to keep starting over. But for right now, we got to start over. We can't continue this methodology we got going on. We have to return to our global and historic tradition, and we have to start getting it. I remember one of our teachers was saying, he was like, if you don't got the right answer, you don't have an answer. And I was like, man, he's so harsh, right? But you know what I realized? This is religion. This ain't some worldly science. You can't have half the answers. Either you know it or you don't. That's it. You can't say, oh, I got 50% on my Fard Ain. It doesn't work. You gotta have 60%. No, you got to know your stuff. And then when you're talking about details, you're talking about legal rulings, you're talking about fatwa. We can't do it like that. And I know this stuff is, no one's going to, look, it's cutting up courses, it's playing games. That's the way it goes. Even if we like that, we can't remain like that. I hope that I'm encouraging you, not discouraging you, because my intention is not to discourage us, but it's to make us realize where we at, then actually tell us what we have to do. We have to go back to the basics. We have to get real, living, trustworthy teachers. We have to get reliable books. We have to have chains of narrations. We have to have aspiring students, and we have to fix it, right? And everything they gave us has been a means to make sure we never do that. So I follow Quran and Sunnah. That means you got to be a mujtahid, right? You're going to be deducing legal rulings from the Quran and Sunnah, and you got 50, 60% retention. Come on, man. You can't follow Quran and Sunnah with 50, 60, 70% retention. No, absolutely not. You can't make judgments. You need to follow a qualified scholar, and you need to be able to identify that. So you can't afford not to follow a madhab. That's why you don't know Fard Ain, because you don't follow a madhab. You're making it up as you go along. And then you're talking about the most detailed system of jurisprudence that the world has known, and you skipping all that. And just, you know, I read a hadith, and you know nothing about hadith. You don't even know how to tell if a hadith is authentic or not authentic. You have no clue. Just someone says, you know, Al-Albani, it's in Bukhari. You don't even know how to check if somebody fabricated that. That's most of us. So you need to follow someone trustworthy, because you can't do it. This is real stuff. And listen, let me tell you, it's not getting any better. They actually made a business out of this stuff. Fake scholars. They producing them and giving them doctorates and master's degrees, and they bringing them out the seminaries, and they're going to be the new Islamic authorities. They wiping out Islamic scholarship, and you have some guy who went to some seminary and, you know, studied with some graduate from one of these universities, and it's a mess. And that's going to be your new scholar. They got a whole new game. The Wahhabi thing is dead in the water. All that Salafi stuff, they're getting rid of that. They got a whole new world order. Now it's the academic who's combined Islamic studies and secular studies, and now they got their own institutions and they giving out degrees, and they're going to be the new in the universities and the hospitals, and this whole new mega mess of an individual going to be the scholar to you. If you don't learn, it's going to be worse. You think the Salafi movement was bad? Wait till you see this new stuff they got coming. this new version of Islamic scholarship. A mess. And they training them like that. Our tradition is under attack. We ain't seen nothing yet. We better get ourselves together. We better start studying. We better start having them old time circles in the masjid where it ain't controlled by the government, where it ain't controlled by the powers that be, by the wealthy, rich people. We better get back to the basics, sitting around in those halaqat in the masjid and producing our own teachers who actually learned, and having them memorize books in various sciences. We better get busy. We better take our brothers who know some Arabic and who know this and have them reading real books to us, and sit down and be patient till we learn. We better start covering books. It should be a rule. You go in the masjid, books are being taught from cover to cover with explanations, making us aware of our historic legacy and knowledge. You better fix this stuff. All this sitting back. Yeah, you know what I mean? I was over there with the sheikhs, and man, you better get out of here with that nonsense. Better do some real learning. Real learning. Don't listen. And it ain't about ego tripping. They get ready to give us a new religion in the name of Islam. And we're not even going to be able to detect it. We're not even going to be able to detect it. I tell you, I remember this, some stuff I just don't like saying. There was an individual. He was following the madhab, he said. We sat and listened to him teach the madhab. And I remember, I was like, what the heck is that? What is that? I said, that's not the madhab. And the person said, oh yeah, no, we were studying comparative fiqh. I said, why you didn't say you do comparative fiqh? Why you say you follow a madhab? That's not the madhab. That's not even accepted in the madhab. What are you talking about? Oh, you know, we was going by the strongest opinion. Since when you weighed a strong opinion? You don't even know the basics of a madhab or the foundations of how the madhab works. And you talking about you follow the strongest opinion. What the heck is this? But in the name of the madhab, like, and I'm saying we doing comparative fiqh here. No, you teaching a madhab with the text of the madhab, and you're redefining the madhab with the book right in front of you. Some serious stuff we faced. And this is in our communities. This common person say, we don't call Imam an-Nawawi an imam because an imam is someone you follow, and he's not to be followed because he had a corrupt aqidah. Imam an-Nawawi and you. Al-Hafiz an-Nawawi and you. Al-Lughawi an-Nawawi and you. Spiritual master an-Nawawi and you. And say it like it ain't nothing. You know, I don't follow nobody but the Prophet. Really? And Imam an-Nawawi was following who? Aristotle? I mean, what are you talking about? Like, this stuff is hilarious at best. But guess what? It's not funny because it's being passed off as the religion. It's being passed off as the religion, especially in our communities. That's the new deen. So we end up not like, remember we went through the first resurrection and second resurrection. We starting them processes all over in a different form. So for us, I just say, listen, these are needed. And I challenge you to really, really pay attention to what I'm saying. This dude, man, what is he talking about? Nah, examine. You start having circles of knowledge, and we start learning, and we start really studying. No egos. We're going to discover people been telling us false stuff easily. Once we learn, and we can't be lazy. The one who don't have it has to go to the one who has it. And that one, whatever he don't got to go to the other one who has it until we put it all together and we can start recognizing stuff. We're in a war. In a war, you can't afford not to fight. You got to fight back. Or they're going to slaughter you. Our fight back is actually learning how our religion is conveyed, learning who our trustworthy scholars are, learning the system, learning the books, learning the sciences, and each one teach one. Ain't nobody gonna do it for us. We got to do that. We keep looking for a savior. It ain't coming. It hasn't come, and it ain't coming. You got to do your work collectively as a people. And that's why you have to see yourselves as a people. Ain't nobody gonna do it. Trust me. And unfortunately, too many of us who get access, we start to use it for ourselves. And this is, man, I seen it. They cutting up a book, cutting it up just so we're gonna make a course here. This course I can get like $5,000. Then I'll take this part of it. The book of Tahara, $5,000. Kitab al-Salat, $5,000. Kitab al-Sawm, $5,000. Kitab al-Hajj, $5,000. Mu'amalat, this part, $5,000. You know, Mu'amalat is detailed, so I'm giving you 4 parts. Come on, stop playing with us, man. We need to finish this book. Stop it. And then it's advertising. And I mean, I want to ask you something. Just think about where we at. Would you think, just imagine I'm asking you, Hajj and Umrah has become a tourist location. Could you imagine the Sahaba walking around the Kaaba taking pictures? Could you imagine it? What would you think if Sayyidina Abu Bakr, or Sayyidina Umar, or Sayyidina Uthman, or Sayyidina Ali saw anyone in the Kaaba doing that? I mean, this is where we at. Hajj itself has become a business. Umrah is a business and a vacation spot. This is supposed to be the most holiest places of ibadah and worship and connecting to Allah and connecting to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a tourist location. That's where we going. We got to fix that. Right? We got to fix it. And the others is making money, so they ain't going to fix it. It's us, the poor, the underserved, that got to take our deen and say no. Right? This is the work. And if no one tells us, we won't do it. We'll continue to be misled. We can't afford it. Generations are counting on us to adjust. To adjust. And it's not going to be easy, because in a way we love being lazy. But the Prophet ﷺ sought refuge in Allah from laziness. We don't want to do all that work. Man, I don't feel like arguing with nobody. Neither did Abu Hanifa, neither did Abdullah ibn Umar, neither did Abu Bakr. None of them felt like, but they got to do the job of enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. And listen, this is not criticizing It's waking us up so we can save and protect our religion to the best of our ability, because we only have but so much capacity. But I guarantee you, if we started being serious, we started pulling our resources together, pulling our efforts together, learning, holding on to each other, right? We can change environments, right? We can change environments. And don't deem yourself incapable. You can do it. You got to work. You got to sacrifice, but you can do it. And it's just something we got to think about. And I don't know. I kind of, this stuff bothers me. I'm spitting out my pain, right? It really, really bothers me because I've been around long enough to see this movie, and I'm watching it. And I'm watching us. I'm like, man, we got work to do, right? Especially in our communities. All right, I'm done. I'm ready to retire.
Yeah,
Yes.
man, keep coming back. It works if you work it.
Yeah. You got to attend the MA meetings. Minhaj Anonymous. Yeah,
but that's something, what you just mentioned is extremely important. The laziness, especially the laziness as regards to knowledge. As a people, generally speaking, and I know there's exceptions among us. I'm not talking about the exceptions. I'm talking about the norm. Too many of us are lazy when it comes to knowledge. And I'm not talking only about Islamic knowledge. I'm talking about knowledge in general. Many times, the thing that stands between us and what we desire in life is knowledge. We're too lazy to get it, so we just stay where we at and we become complacent like that. We have to get out of that. And inside of Islam, we have too many people that have knowledge telling you, don't worry about getting knowledge. It's like when the election just passed, right? There was a meme going around, and they was talking about Oprah. Who else was it? I think it was Beyonce, somebody. All those people that were supporting Kamala Harris. And they was talking against rich people. And it was like somebody made a meme, said, you got these rich people telling you to vote for their party because the other party's for the rich people, right? And they're telling you don't trust rich people, but they're rich. You got to make that make sense. It's like in our community, you have some people with one degree of knowledge or another telling the rest of the people, don't worry about knowledge. You need to think about that. You need to really think about that. Even if you're not talking about, let's say, Aqidah, fiqh, or tasawwuf, right? You're talking about what you think is important. Because a lot of you think having a proper Islamic belief is a secondary issue. Now, a lot of you think that. You think that basic Islamic proper belief is advanced, high-level ilmul kalam. That's what you're thinking. That's what you're telling people, right? The thing that you think is important, outside of Aqidah, there's still knowledge attached to that. You have to have knowledge to do that thing properly. The thing that you think is important, whatever that thing is, for some of you is business, for some of you is community, there's still knowledge attached to that. You have to know how to do that thing right. You have to know the history behind that thing. You have to know, did others do it before you? And those that did it before you, what did they do? Did they fail? Did they succeed? Did they partially fail? Did they partially succeed? What mistakes did they make? There's still knowledge attached to that. But there's too many people among us telling us we don't need to know anything. We don't need to have knowledge. And that's a problem amongst us. That's a chronic illness among our people. Just like we talk about high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, we got high laziness with regards to knowledge among us. That's another health crisis that we got among us. And we have to stop that. And anybody that's like that, that's among us talking like that, is the same one that's telling us, like, don't worry about it. Man, you're going to die anyway. Keep eating that donut. Keep drinking that soda, right? And we're predisposed to it. We are predisposed to it. Just like in health, right? We grew up drinking soda. We grew up eating sweets. We grew up eating Kool-Aid, drinking Kool-Aid with 2 inches of sugar at the bottom of the picture, right? And don't think nothing wrong with that, right? This is the way we grew up. It's normal. So we've been eating unhealthy all of our lives. Having a vegetarian plate is not going to change 40 years of eating red Kool-Aid with 2 inches of sugar at the bottom of the picture. You went to the vegan restaurant one time and you're supposed to be cured. It don't work like that. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change your diet. You have to flush out stuff. You have to cleanse. And you have to make a new habit, a new lifestyle, the same way you had that old habit, that old lifestyle of eating chitlins, pig feet, and pork rinds. Imam, face twisted up. You used to eat pork rinds before you got with Dr. York. You know you used to eat them pork rinds.
Barbecued
pork rinds. All the crazy stuff that we put in our bodies and made a habit out of it. Even when we became Muslim and we stopped eating pork, right? Some of us, we even got to the point where we stopped eating haram yet. We still eating haram as Muslims, right? So the same way we have to purify our diet and make that a healthy lifestyle. And we have to be consistent in that until we see change. Likewise, when it comes to our relationship with beneficial knowledge, how we act allergic to it, and we don't want nothing to do with it, right? We have to make that a lifestyle. We have to start liking that and stop running away from that. The one who wants to call us away from that, he's like the one who's behind the commercial. He works for the big food and big pharma, right? Because he makes money off of our sicknesses and our illnesses, right? Likewise, in the Muslim community, they benefit the more a lot of us stay ignorant of these basics and don't take beneficial knowledge seriously and don't even want to get the basics. There are people benefiting from that. Imam, talked a little bit about it. You have to recognize it because now you know better and you can't blame them because you know better. It burns me up sometimes. Like literally too many of us, when we hear even knowledge being mentioned, we go the other way. And it's going to destroy us and it's going to kill us. And it's already doing it. Somebody mentioned in the comments earlier, you bring a book to the Masjid and the elders go away. It's worse than that now, right? Because ain't nobody teaching in the Masjid. And the ones that teaching in the Masjid, the people ain't coming to the Masjid. The only people that teach they're teaching online. And the only people that come seriously to the class online is trolls. People trolling seriously, troll heavy, right? And then when Imam Amin asks, is it clear? Do you understand? Everyone says, yes, clear, clear, clear. And then when you ask specific questions to verify it's clear, the comments stop moving. Because it's not really clear. Our relationship with knowledge has to get better. We have to stop being averse to it. That's what I wanted to say.
Can I, before I was thinking about something, if you don't mind, Imam Faheem, can I say something real quick?
Quickly
for me, maybe like 10 minutes. Right now. So, okay, since we did all this, this is what I want us to do. Everyone make an effort and a strong intention that this year coming up, so we start now, 2025, we're going to cover a minimum of 10 books, cover to cover, with a teacher. Can we all make a covenant for that? Say yes, I. Just say yes. A minimum of 10 books. We need to do more, but let's start somewhere. We're going to cover a book in Aqidah, a book in al-fiqh, and a book in tasawwuf, a book in hadith, and some study of the Quran. Let's start right there. 5 books. A book of Aqidah, a book of fiqh, a book of tasawwuf, a book of hadith, something in tafsir, and if we're strong, we can add something in seerah. But in all of that, we're going to do at least 10 books from cover to cover. So I won't be asking whoever studied a book with a teacher from cover to cover. You should say, I studied this book with this teacher from beginning to end, right? And my intention this year is to do 25 books. So those books are going to be done online, some of them in classes, depending what we're doing. But that's like just covering the books, not a lot of details. We need to get in the habit of reading and identifying what are sound books to learn from and having with someone who actually read so that they could help us, right? And I'm doing this myself. Besides the books I'm telling you to read, I'm reading books with my teachers. Some of those books are volumes. We're going to finish in this field, this book, in this field, this book, at different levels. We have to get in the habit of reading. There was the old saying, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. Let's change that narrative. That we study. So when we were doing study in a book today, right? In the field of hadith, right? And we were coming across some terminology in the book, and we stopping on lines. This refers to this. Go cross-reference in this book. Remember we read this in that book? Go check that book. And then we read this in that book. And as we're reading one book, we're going back in the other book, checking terminology, cross-referencing, knowing terms, knowing where quotes from, knowing things we're taken from. I'm talking about, let's get serious. Some of us will be able to do that in Arabic. Some of us can only work with English right now. So wherever we at, we're going to engage and then develop and develop and develop. To what I would like to see in our community, scholarly books are normally read. Even if just qira'ah, just reading them, just going through them. We don't understand everything, but it is a habit that when you go to our masjid, books in Aqidah are read, books in fiqh, books in hadith, books in Arabic language, books in knowledge, books in spirituality, books in history, books in ilm rijal, books in sciences of hadith, usul al-fiqh. Every science, there is a book that's read in our communities. In our communities, that book is read somewhere. You won't go in our communities around the country and there's nothing there. You go to anywhere. We might build in one place. They study in this book here. They study in this book here. We're reading this book. We got to make a habit around the country. And those who don't want to engage, fine. We just engage where we at. And I'm telling you, sit down and listen to Arabic books, even if you don't understand. Push yourself to just listen. Train yourself to sit down and listen. It has an impact on you. It will have an effect if you just sit down and listen. I know you don't understand everything, but know what you're learning to understand is sit down. That's what you're learning is sit down and be patient and go through the process. There is something in it just by you hearing the words. There's something moving inside. There's a spiritual element to it. Learn to sit down. Learn to be still for a minute just to acquire, right? It will give itself to you. The scholars, they said, if you give all of yourself to knowledge, knowledge will give a portion of itself to you. If you give all of yourself to knowledge, knowledge will give yourself a support. We want it to be a habit where we just have gatherings. We read books, we cover stuff. We need to change the narrative. So now, when you read enough books, you'll realize that this Wahhabi stuff don't make no sense, right? Because now you know scholars. Now you've heard your teachers explain. You said, this stuff is not cutting it. It ain't. Nah, this ain't cutting it. Listen, I'm surrounded by, in my area, I'm surrounded by them. They ain't coming nowhere near me. You know why? Because they recognize. Don't come with that. They actually study. You can't tell them stories. You can't tell me that no Muslim knew about Islam or the meaning of La ilaha illallah till Allah gave Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab his new message. You can't tell me that, right? That don't make no sense, right? When we know that better than that. We know that Saudi Arabia, was full of shirk and deviant Sufis until they came with the da'wah and the imams of the da'wah came. That don't make no sense. Like, we have a religion. It's real. It's preserved. That don't make sense. Can't tell me that. And we need to be in our communities where you can't just tell us anything. Nah, we can check. We can read, we can understand, we can research. We've learned how to do that. And the only way you're going to do that is a bunch of exposure. So where they didn't grant us access, let's take the access. Where they didn't give us the information, let's take it. Right? We can do it. I'm telling you, it's available. And Allah has laid out the path for us. All we got to do is travel it. We have everything we need. We're not deficient. We're just lazy. We're not deficient. We're just too lazy. We don't want to put in no work. We want everything microwave. And there's no such thing as microwave Islam. Islam needs to be slow cooked. So let's get off our tails. Let's put it in the work and see the result. And I'm saying that we have to study. I ain't saying be a scholar. Wherever you at, you got to put in all your work at that level. Then when you move to a next level, put all your work at that level. Just like you chase dunya, just like you want to get a career move, you want to get a promotion in the knowledge of the religion that draws you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serves as a mean to save your people. Allah told us in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ku anfusakum wa ahlikum. Oh, you believe, save yourselves and your families. We have a job to do. And we're committed, inshallah ta'ala, to help. We can't do everything because we don't know everything. But what we do know, we're going to share it, inshallah. And hopefully you'll be better than us and you keep pushing when we fall and get tired. Especially my last thing for me, I said 10 minutes. I'm at 9 minutes and 52 seconds. Some of you guys and sisters, y'all know, stop being so lazy. Stop being intimidated. Stop being Rodney King. Stop compromising your religious principles and start teaching and telling the truth. Stop being afraid of your own shadow. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Don't be afraid. Tell the truth. Stand on business, as they say. If it's for your worldly stuff, you standing on business. Come to Deen, you on your knees. Come on, man. Stand on business. Stand up. And I know a lot of them like, man, this guy's harsh. I'm not harsh. You soft. That's what it is. And it ain't soft fighting. You're not courageous. And you should be courageous for the Deen, even if it costs you your life. We have to do it. You know it, but you make excuses. I just this guy, he said, man, I'm Sunni, you know them Wahhabis. Why are you still letting Wahhabi stuff go right in your environment? You right there. and you're not clarifying the truth. You making excuses and you know the truth. You won't say anything. What's wrong with you? You don't got to be mean. Don't be mean. Just tell the truth. We too harsh, too rough. You be nice and Gandhi as you like. Get the job done. Do your job. If all of us do our part, we can clean this stuff up in the next 20 years. At least to where it ain't the dominant idea. Misguidance. We could do it if we all work hard. Everybody go at it. And look what we've done collectively in 4 or 5 years. We woke a lot of people up and they are aware. And it's just 3 unlearned people. Imagine you brothers with all that knowledge and Arabic and studied and can do all that stuff and Quran and Hadith, all that stuff. Come on, man, put it to work. You know, you online sitting with your sheikhs and, you know, yeah, I was with the sheikhs and we love you. Okay, all right, now, come on, man, get busy. It don't cost much. Get online, start teaching. In your masjid, start teaching. Because it's not enough of us. Because if we get more, they don't single one out. Oh, man, that's him. They're trying to make a cult, 3453 cult. Okay, don't follow 3453. You do it. You do it. And then you just speak the truth, because if you speak the truth, it's all going to be the same stuff. Just you saying it and I'm saying it. You got a way to say it. Imam Faheem got a way. This one got. But all of us say the same thing. And we come together. And don't worry about risk. Don't worry about sustenance. Allah is going to take care of us. We come together. We spread the truth. We point to each other. They teaching that book over there. He's having, because all of us can't do all the books at one time. So, you know, he's teaching in this book in Aqidah. He's teaching this book in fiqh. He's teaching Maliki fiqh. He's teaching Shafi fiqh. He's teaching Hanafi fiqh, Hanbali fiqh. This book in Tasawwuf. This book in Sirah. It's enough of us, and there's enough stuff to go around. I just laid out how much it is. So we could occupy the airwaves 24 hours a day if all of us do our work. Just like they got the airwaves, we could reverse that with books, with stuff. If you learn, you said you learn, you should be able to do it. You should be able to open the book. You sat, because that's the Sunni way. We sit with teachers, we go line for line, we finish books. So it shouldn't be no excuse. You studied, then you should be able to do it. Because that's the system. That's the global and historic system of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. You sit, you study books. If you sit down and we study curriculums and we lay out, it's all the same stuff. Different sheikhs, different madhahib, but the process, the system, the structure, the methodology, the way of at-talaqi is the same. For Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, unless you're a deviant and you're doing something other than the jamhur of this ummah. So if that's the case, get busy. Get busy. It's enough room. It's enough room. It's not enough of us doing it. The Black Imams Roundtable is not enough. All the different imams are not enough. We need all hands on deck to do this work. And here's the thing. We are afraid that we will be revealed for what we don't know. Don't be afraid to learn the deen. We are learning together. Simple. You don't know already. We already told you that. We got that point. So to be revealed what I don't know, oh man, you ain't discovered nothing. Let me tell you some stuff I don't know. Right? You ain't said nothing. So that's right. All of us are like that. That's the point. We're going to keep teaching what we know. So therefore, we have to learn more and more. And that's going to go till we die. Worship your Lord to death. Come, that ain't going to stop. There's so much. It ain't enough. We got 3 lifetimes. We ain't going to do enough. So if all of us work, don't worry about what you don't know, because there's always going to be some stuff you don't know. And there's always more to learn. You know, and in my last closing, I promise I'm going to stop. I go all over the world. And even when I'm not traveling, I'm still following like our teachers in different places. You know, they got a bunch of old gray men that are scholars. Hundreds, thousands of sheikhs, and scholars, and learned people, wise people, spiritual masters, teaching, and they all grade 70, 80 in every community except in ours. In the Black community, we don't see that. Where are our elderly scholars that we respect and we sit at their feet and we have reverence for them and we learn from them because of their wisdom and knowledge and study and memorization and expertise in the various Islamic sciences? We have to develop that too, like everybody else. When you go to Africa, Imam Naeem, don't you see a bunch of elders that are respected, sheikhs giving, like, and a bunch of kids? Where's our elders? And if we realize something happened, we don't have them, don't keep doing the same thing. Let's fix that. So where you got these young imams, but you should have elder sheikhs, plenty of men and women that we sit at their feet and still taking narrations from them and reading books on them. And it's an honor to do that. We talking to our old people, man, old dudes don't know nothing. That means something happened to our people. You're supposed to sit at the foot of the elder, like amazed at the wisdom that came with the knowledge too. That the elder, you sitting there reading books on the elders, and the elders are explaining books in all the Islamic sciences. We deserve that too. That is not the property of someone else. Every time we want to learn, we got to go to somebody else. And right now, that's what we may have to do. But we need to produce it. Right now, we might not have it. So we got to go sit with others and we learn, and that like every other nation do. Everybody come to different nations. They take from what that nation got and they benefit and they bring it back home and they build their own. And then after a couple generations, they have their own masters in the same fields they went somewhere else to learn. We got to start thinking like a people. So may Allah give us success. May Allah give us success, give us success, give us success, and make a commitment. We're going to finish with a teacher, not by yourself, with a teacher that you're going to cover at least 10 books, at least 10 books from cover to cover that you read with a teacher. Y'all follow what I mean? Add that. You can read on your own as many as you want, but you're going to read 10 books with a teacher. There's a difference. And anyone who's ever studied with a teacher know it's a difference from reading a book on your own and reading with a teacher who understands, who read with a teacher. We gotta develop this habit among ourselves. 10 books. And we're going to facilitate it. Right now, we're reading several books online, and I'm lazy too. So may Allah help me with my laziness. Imam Naeem is teaching books. Imam Faheem is teaching books. I'm teaching books. We have guest teachers coming in, speaking, teaching books. Let's get busy. 2025 is the year we turn the key, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu bikum. I'm finished for the night.
Not before you close out. You going to the store.
I'm finished too.
You finished too, Imam Faheem?
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
This is my prop boat.
All right, since I got to close out, shameless plug. Hey, bro, got to do business.
Yeah.
I'm covering Imam Faheem. We have coming up, we're going to do 2 texts, inshallah, 2 small texts during this weekend. We already covered at Tahawiyah, so we'll make sure during this gathering, we'll read at Tahawiyah again, just so for those who didn't get it, because now we read it and we should be able to cover it with ease. Here's the link for the course. This Aqidah, a comparative approach, is a session that we're having January 3rd, 4th, and 5th. This is the link to register. So in this, we're going to cover, we'll probably read for the first hour, an hour and a half. We'll read through the Tahawiyah again, because that's going to be the basis by which we go through this comparative approach. And we're going to read 2 small treaties, and one of them we're going to try to memorize in the belief about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're going to get 3 texts during this weekend, inshallah. This is our intention. This is our niyat. Qira'atan, just reading. And then with the course of, through these 3 days, the comparative approach, you're going to use those texts. So you're going to have them like mastered. So that's 3 you get in one weekend. So you're already ahead of the game. And from there to now, we're probably going to cover a book because I'm going to change. Sometimes we go a little bit too much detail, which takes longer. I'm going to cut down on the details so we can get in the habit of reading and feeling that we accomplished something. You're teaching at Tahawiyah. Which book are you teaching? At Tahawiyah with a shar? Levan, which shar are y'all teaching? Or which book of Tahawiyah are you teaching? Share with us.
Where are they located?
They in Jersey, central New Jersey area.
Okay.
What book are y'all teaching? At-Tahawi is the basic creed. Are y'all using a commentary? Are y'all using your own commentary? From where did you get your own commentary? So the Ghaznawi, so this book you're teaching, y'all doing this book? Is that the book y'all doing, CD?
He said yes.
Okay. So this is the book. Here's the link for that book. Right? And that's what days are y'all doing that there? Is it online? Where is it at? Where y'all doing? Thursdays at 7 o'clock at the Masjid? So what area? So put it in the area. Put the Masjid's link for those people that may be in that area. They want to study. There's the link for the book there. For the book they're teaching, Aqidah Tahawiyah. We also taught that book, but more benefit. You're in the area. They're there. They're in center. I've been to that masjid several times. I'm aware of them. Did y'all get a new imam yet? Or not yet? I heard y'all was looking for an imam. Not yet. Why you don't become Sheikh al-Islam, right? So, yeah, that they're doing it. That's Thursdays at 7. The more we have it. Hey, Sister Aziza from Ewing. MashaAllah. Okay. Now I remember you. That's the connection. So now that's a place to go learn the book. The book is there. You can get it. You can take your book. We can't let y'all have all the money. We got to get some too. Right? Siraj Salik. Ala Madhab Imam Malik. I won't blame y'all for that. May Allah help y'all realize the madhab is a Shafi'i, not Malik, but that's another story. Now I'm joking. So now everyone is doing their part. And all we got to do is connect, right? And everybody help out. But sitting with teachers, learning, benefiting, and then you study the book with other teachers. It's fine. It's not no competition. You sit with one teacher, you learn the book, you go with another teacher, you're going to unveil stuff that the other teacher didn't do. And you can keep studying and studying and studying till it becomes just normal around us. Atlantic City ain't like California. We go hard here. No, joking. All right, may Allah bless you all. So that's the creed book. I put it up, right? So you can find that creed there. Also, Imam Naeem, where's the small version of a Tahawiyah? You got to be fast, man.
Man, you got to let me know you put me on the spot. Oh.
Hey, man, you got to move fast.
Ah.
Everybody might want a different thing.
Oh,
yes, this book is available now on the website. But this is this book. But this is a bigger commentary. Also, Imam Naeem did, for the Black Imams Roundtable, a small, just the text. This is a commentary. But we used the text when we were teaching it. So all of it's available. You can put it in later, Imam, whatever, just drop it in there. And I'll just remind you, like I said, the course is coming up. Who's teaching this book, Levon? You or somebody else? Thursdays at 7. What am I doing at Thursdays at 7? So the book from Nur Zaman, that's the text. This other book, that's a commentary on the text. I'm teaching it. Man, how far are you? Where are you at in the book? MashaAllah. Y'all make me so happy. SubhanAllah. Where are you at in the text? That Tahawiyah books, we need to still keep going around. We just got started. Okay, every Thursday at 7. Let me see if I can come sit in y'all class this week, if Allah facilitates. 7 o'clock. How long is the class? 1 hour, 2 hours? From 7 to when? One hour. Inshallah. Let's see if one of these weeks I can make it up there and come visit you. Inshallah. To sit in the class and get the barakah. Okay. Inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. All right. Barakallahu bikum. May Allah reward you all. Keep us in your dua. سبحان ربك رب العزة ما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين بسر أسرار الفاتحة. Sorry, Imam Faheem. Inshallah, I remind you, Thursday morning at 7:30, as Sayyid Ali bin Sumait will continue in his reading of the book Hidayat al-Talibin. He was supposed to start Monday, but something came up, so he couldn't come to the class. So he rescheduled for Thursday. The normal days is Saturday and Monday mornings, 7:30 on Saturday, and I think he said 8 on Mondays, right? But this Monday passed, he couldn't make it. So the second class will be this Thursday. So mark your times. Thursday at 7:30 in the morning. Inshallah, we will continue with the book. He will continue. So that's another book, and that is from one of our teachers overseas from Tarim, Yemen. So we're working. This is going to be an action-packed coming year, inshallah. Everyone's worrying about Trump, and we worrying about learning. So, right? So we're going to do our part. May Allah reward you all. Barakallahu bikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.